We're just hours away from former President Donald Trump's second impeachment trial, nearly 3 weeks after he left the White House. That's the other reason why this is history. This is the only time a former president has been impeached. Democrats will make the argument that he incited the violence at the January 6th Capitol riot and shouldn't be allowed to hold office ever again. However, Mr. Trump's lawyers say that the trial is a violation of the Constitution and a danger to U.S. democracy. So Debra Alfarone is following the very latest developments on Capitol Hill. Debra, a lot has changed since Donald Trump's first impeachment a year ago, but he's still getting support from his fellow Republicans. That is not changed.
It hasn't changed at all, Anne-Marie. However, the interesting thing is some say many Republicans, though, they're really focusing on the process and the constitutionality of this whole impeachment trial rather than having to condemn or really, even respond to President Trump's actions in the minutes and days leading up to the insurrection here.
Advisors to former President Donald Trump are confident heading into his second impeachment trial today.
We already know how this is going to turn out. I mean, there's no chance that there's actually going to be a conviction.
Democrats will try to convince at least 17 Republicans that Mr. Trump incited an insurrection on the U.S. Capitol on January 6th.
And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
In a 78-page brief, Mr. Trump's lawyers called the case sterile and thin, political theater, and a danger to our republic, democracy, and the rights that we hold dear.
Really what we're seeing here is cancel culture via the Constitution.
House impeachment managers say the former president's behavior was the most grievous constitutional crime ever committed by a president.
Sweeping something as momentous as this under the rug brings no healing.
Arguments begin this afternoon on whether it's constitutional for the Senate to try a former president. And then starting tomorrow, it's expected each side will have up to 16 hours to make their case.
And the only logical conclusion is that Donald Trump should be convicted.
New York Democrat Hakeem Jeffries was an impeachment manager in President Trump's first trial.
Connecting the dots is going to be an important part of what the House impeachment managers do as it relates to how we arrived at January 6th, connected to the big lie that Donald Trump told.
Democrats are not expected to call any witnesses, instead choosing to show video evidence.
An advisor to President Trump says he is in touch with many of those Republicans who will be voting on this impeachment trial. The advisor also says that the former president is expected to watch a good chunk of these proceedings, while there's someone who has said that they don't think they're going to watch any of it, and that is President Biden. Anne-Marie.
Well, because, he's probably going to be a little busy, and that's because we are still in the middle of a pandemic. Many, many Americans are watching and waiting to see if they're going to get any sort of financial relief from the federal government. That being said, even though this impeachment trial is going to start, senators have other things to do. It's busy on Capitol Hill. What do we know about this COVID relief package?
There's a lot of work to be done with it. So last night, let's get to a couple of details. Senior House Democrats, they were talking about that $1,400 stimulus payment, and they're really sticking with the $75,000 in annual income bar. They were talking about $50,000 per individual. Now they're at the $75,000 still. The other thing that is getting a lot of headlines and people are talking about is the $15 minimum wage. And President Biden says that's probably going to have to fall off of this. They're not going to be able to get that done. That makes some people not so happy, and of course that includes Bernie Sanders. But we will hear more today because in about, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, can't do my math here. Let's see, Senator Schumer and a whole bunch of other senators are going to be talking about this, Democratic senators. They're going to be holding a press conference. We will hear more. They're inching closer, maybe like centimetering closer, actually. But they're getting there.
Oh, they got to start taking steps, rather large steps, because, many people are really depending on this money to keep their businesses and their households afloat. So let's get on it. Debra, thank you so much.
You're welcome.